Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective. To those who do know, humans, they can, yes, they can achieve enlightenment, and that's a soul age group. And I'll share with you my 5D mystic story. We're moving into 7D, but above all, I'll share with you our human story because we are intelligent, sentient beings. Did you know that we are self-regulated only when we are in an optimal state of arousal? So that means that when we get triggered, who knows how to ventral pivot? Raise your hand. Come on, raise it like you just don't care. Okay, so when you alchemize, as a mystic does, you know, validation is the trap, but that's not of just the beliefs in the evil and the good. Nope. Actively, it's the validation of the trauma charges, the effective realism. So basically, people who are in the defensive fight mode, because you need to self-regulate in order for you to have the ability to access an adaptive response to sensory input. Okay, so when we are all made of perception and we have sensations, images, behaviors, affects, meanings, CBAM, Peter Levine's acronym, what do? Well, we apply Dr. Daniel Siegel's Faces Flow, which is the integrated brain. And this is one of them right in front of you. Okay, so wholeness means you don't have a saga with your twin flame or twin flames. Also, it means you know who the spiritual bypassing, aka somatic bypassing, aka emotionally immature people, aka the ones who don't know how to self-regulate or to stay in an optimal state of arousal because their entire dysregulated state with their beliefs, which they say are the facts with their effective realism. You see what I'm saying? So if you're following, you're going to have fun here. If you're not, it's okay, but hopefully you are. So I'm going to answer questions that I wrote answers to from Reddit, the Spiritual Awakening group. And before we do that, I'm going to share with you an anchored channeled guidance message from me to you as a mystic spiritual one who does let you in on, fun fact, I'm in communion with God, and in the name of the Father and the Son and Holy Spirit, I said yes to Jesus and Holy Spirit and God with my good Christian and Catholic catechists as a self-agent who's not once been broken, because my 3-year-old said, you can't spank me, it is in my body. And then I went off to make my suitcase. I differentiate and link, and so I self-regulate, which means I co-regulate with all of my immediate 5 alloparenting figures, the next ones, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And rejection is not protection. Actually, at 4 I got rejected, and that's because I wanted to read to the children, and my mother said, different is not better or worse. You're serious when you grow up, and now that I'm a grown-up, I get to hang out with all of those of you who like learning and like regulating. Check out PayHip for your Sovereign Blueprint Guide, the accessible guide, for the regulated guide. These are for all of those of you who occupy your own bodies and want to live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self, which is the definition of a life of true spirituality ones. The fake ones, they're faking it, and they in fact do the I forgave, but they think there's an evil team. There's not an evil team, there's a dysregulated team. And again, we are self-regulated only when we are in an optimal state of arousal. So I almost reacted, then I noticed. Or, you know what? Shit. That effective really, I got broken free by the age of 8 because I got disowned by my twin. My mother told me the truth, and I was like, oh, you can't disown me. So when you don't get gaslit by yourself, or basically you don't fall for your own cognitive dissonance, something like that, no, you can't be in cognitive dissonance if you're self-aware. That's the point. So you don't bullshit yourself. Okay, hopefully I've used enough of the basic and attachment trauma education words for you to know why personal growth and spiritual growth happen when you're growing. So be yourself the smart way: stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. Those are my acronyms, and that means you have what it takes, because you don't want the survival mode, which actually keeps you all bottled up. You want the abundance energy mode, and we do and in fact, here's a nice ruin just so that I can share with you what that looks like. And wait for it. It's also this one if you prefer images. Nope, not that. Hold on, where's my book? Hold on. There you go. Take the lead of your brain because it's an anticipation machine. It will want to control, and the self will want to support thoughts, emotions, integration. Oh, the ones who are hearing me, I'm doing this. I'm hitting my head with a book, and I'm hitting my other side of the head with the card. and it's a stag. You really might want to check out YouTube if you can't see the video, because unfortunately Spotify doesn't make it easy for me, the creator Spotify, to know what's going on. And so with that being said, I love though that I can know some of you are seeing me, some of you are hearing me. Oh wait, I'm not done, hold on for it. So when you take the lead, you're like Bambi, better than Bambi's father, which was a really, I mean, that as a kid, I'm like, that's a mean, that's not a father. Today we know what happens when a person doesn't receive a third attunement, repairing rupture, and we say, wow, core wounds. Yeah, they are all healable. Rejection is not protection. It means that your heart will be stabbed, and that's why you can get addicted to being rejected. A lovely anthropologist informs us why. Our survival mechanism is that we need one human being to beat the bear. So you won't physically beat the bear by yourself. The terrible twos, nobody's a terrible two. That's not how this works. I'm just a child. I can't be spiteful. Actively, my nervous system does its thing. So, Pleiadian activation. Welcome aboard, the future human that I am. I come from the future. And I also saw my future human on Earth, and my future being. She's blue. I am blue. I'm blue. No. Here's the truth. So, the truth is that I love how humans are all doing amazing. They don't need superpowers from external forces, but I do know about the Atlantis. I got that intel that I was talking to you about. Okay, so the solar plexus is activated because you continuously learn about yourself. So is this awakening, or do I need a professional help person, or do I need professional help? Okay, I'm attachment trauma educated because I do mentorship, and so I said, how am I going to be able to help people with their anger, their sadness, their surprise, happiness, disgust, and fear, by learning about the embodied brain. And so today I know personal growth and spiritual growth. We were ignorant before the embodied brain information about who does it for real. The regulated leaders do personal growth and spiritual growth. As for the ones who need mindful therapists first, they will go or they will not. So from me to you, the message: love anchors in the truth. That means you're self-regulating in the oxytocin gene hormone. You're in your prefrontal cortex, just so you're clear. When I say the word love, it means a 0-1-year-old whose safe haven, secure base is I am. I have my back. And then all the other secure connections. And obviously that involves the 5D collective of human beings who are mature. The 3D, 4D do not get cut out of the herd. We don't reject anyone because we don't do the shame, blame, fault, revenge. That's people who project. That's them bringing the core wounds. They're transgenerational trauma. Instead of processing it, they're carrying it to their next. So, but we're here, so one day it'll be knock knock, who's there? Listen, you know the ones you call demons and devils because you don't like science, technology, or somehow you're reading that book as if it's meant to stay the test of time. So that star called the sun. Yeah, we know you don't believe us, but it will do the thing that we know it will do. Would you mind if we take the children that you have brought to life, and you say you love, that if your beliefs that are so cherishable, not falsifiable, which means they're not grounded in reality, like the flat earthers who Neil deGrasse proved the earth is round again, do you really love? No. Those who are watching me, no. They use a word. They can't physically love because otherwise they wouldn't be saying nope. They're staying with us because you're demons. That's what happens when cognitive dissonance, structural dissociation, people who have been basically brought up to use a left and simply the back, you realize, like, yes, Shakespeare, we don't speak Shakespeare anymore, but never mind. Okay, so beliefs and perception. It's unfortunate, but yeah. So it's good when someone asks, is this awakening or do I need professional help? Because that means they're aware of that which is the embodied brain. So all seriousness, the message, love anchors in the truth because it is clear of pain, that unhealthy stuff. Because obviously if a rock falls on your foot, that's physical pain. The rejection thing, it actually lights up the same part of the brain that when we get hit with a knife, it stabs us in the heart, or a toothache, Okay, so that's why once you're immune to core wounds, it's because your core is you and you grow yourself, and that's the emotionally mature, empowered divine feminine. So your somatic resource, mindset practices, and journal prompts. Check out Pay Him. You'll love the guides. Your sovereign blueprint talks about effective realism, mentions Pat Ogden, Schwartz with the whole self. The regulated leader is with our lovely Dr. Dennis Siegel, some of his great information, and Stephen Porges, and I forget all the details. But I'm going to say your sovereign blueprint is if you're ready to take more ownership of this. The accessible guide is if you want less of all of the information that I've learned throughout the years and more of just the practical stuff. The regulated leader, anyone who is, if you corporate, do you do any of that? I don't. I'm a solopreneur, so I've chosen on purpose. Also, I'm looking forward to supporting people to actually create great companies. A man that I love out there, I don't know him, he doesn't know me, Gary Vee. He is brilliant as he knows what soft skills are and as he knows what it means to be himself for real, not take shit from no one, and actively understand that people are people. So I love the man, he's a genius, and he is also a person who cares. No, I don't agree with everything that he says, but we all don't agree with everything any one of us says. So really, this all or nothing is a split thinking from a teenager, and the grown-ups who still do it have rigid thinking or chaotic thinking, which means that they're not yet mature. So that's why when you meet spiritual bypassers, you'll notice that they don't actually harness the grace that they're meant to, because they don't know to walk on the floor, have humility, and basically use their prefrontal. So the people who, when we do knock knock, if they choose to not let us take the children that they say they love, I'm going to say that's not love. I don't know what our entire system is going to decide at the time because I don't remember. What I just know that the majority of what I saw, the future on Earth, was we all leave and we have the capacity to coordinate our own departure because we are friends with our galactic infinite beings. No, the galactic cosmos. Do you really think there's only humans? I mean, oh, I was 8 when I knew about aliens. I was like, of course we're not the only species. Doesn't anybody remember when they thought that the sun, like, it revolved around us or us around it or whatever, however it went? Ego, what's up? So whenever you spot ego, if you're an ego self, you're like, oh, look, there's an insecure one. They think it revolves around, I'm so sorry, where are my manners? Hey, 3-year-old, everything revolves around me too. I know, isn't it wonderful? I'm so happy. So love anchors in truth because it's clear, because yes, we don't go after the pain. No, pain is not company. Misery is not company. Okay, so people who don't get their nervous system in the abundance energy mode, yeah, it's unfortunate. We are self-regulated only when we are in an optimal state of arousal. Means you have nervous system sovereignty. Means that sitting in ventral state is very much yes, the ones who need someone like Debdena 5 seconds and they're like, something's gonna go wrong, which is not funny. And so divine protection, cords cut, breakthrough energy. We don't need to cut cords, nobody's dangerous, but the sword and the rock and that lovely kid who became King Arthur, his innocence. And so when you do meet children, they are bearers of truth and they're also bearers of kindness. When they get into that, they're not, no. When they get immature, it's because they don't know how to handle dysregulation. No, because they get upset. And the grown-ups teach them regulation and consistent, contingent communication. And no, it's not a perfect anything, but that's the whole point of why we pivot and we continue to evolve and move into the future. You can't shame human beings into evolution. Remember that. And here's our Arcturian light beings. I am an Akashic record reader. I've told you, many of you know that already. Okay, so as I was saying, love anchors in the truth because it is clear of pain, it accepts all and rejects none. Anima Mundi, the living soul of the world in all of its multifaceted, multidimensional layers, bonded together by loving cosmic forces. All that is accepting all and rejecting none. And our soul can't die, our life force can't either, but if people don't access their embodied brain with self-regulation skills, we get to handle their 5 hands: humiliation, rejection, injustice, even though they definitely think about injections in ways that are very fascinating. So Does anybody know what happens when distortion actively is on a wheelhouse? Again, we have flat earthers. So humiliation, injustice, rejection, abandonment, betrayal. The epistemic trust is the first spot that you want to understand. And so it is important for us to learn how our grown-ups made mistakes, our ancestors, our professionals. That's called a mistake because we're human. So people who make it into conspiracy, that's again filling in the holes with a lot of dysregulated nervous systems because it's pretty basic. However, I understand how people like to explore and conceptualize, which is why the researchers, policymakers, professionals who are the regulated leaders continue to do what we do best. Have mental clarity because we have emotional clarity and discernment. So success happens because humanity has never failed because the asteroid hasn't hit us, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't. And spirituality, people, God is amazing. Do you really think he abandons his children? So I have seen cosmic karmic balancing and God talk all the time, and he's taught me not to play the know-it-all, which is why I'm trying to share with you all through my spiritual ascension journey. I have found that it is this that happens. Walk hand in hand, spiritual ascension with personal growth, increased emotional intelligence, and consistent moments of applying autonomous self-regulation. So if you didn't understand that, through my spiritual ascension journey, I have found that it walks hand in hand with personal growth. You think I made the inner growth mindset practice and journal prompts from nowhere? We have a whole blog full of inner growth mindset practices that I forget to mention. We have a whole inner growth 1, 2, 3 courses. Their basic main modules are for free on the IHP community website. Well, my website, but the community obviously of IHP goes there. Okay, so you grow yourself, and then you grow emotional intelligence, and you grow consistent autonomous self-regulation, so you're not afraid of somatic countertransference. Being anchored in ventral grew my resilience and grounding in my body capacity over time, because that's the whole point of why when you're self-regulated, you differentiate, and it's like a muscle. So by differentiating and linking, I stay Maria and you stay you, and there's no enmeshing, and there's no yucky I don't lose myself. I can see you, you see me. If you don't want to see me, it's fine, because that's where, like my facade friend, people dress you up, the immature people, the ones who think injections. I've had a person tell me that I've been poisoned. No, I've been chipped because I have had the vaccines. Yes. And when the person's telling me this in my face, you've been chipped, I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, let me continue chit-chatting, because what just came out of I didn't speak the words. I just said, this is not the Matrix, but I know how many people want to live the Matrix. And I know what distortion looks like because I've been explained it by therapists, and I see it when I am with bypassers. Yes, so people who are walking, they're humans, they're non-metabolized, your 8-year-old gets respected because they're not monsters, okay? You see what I'm saying? Okay, so my gift is bringing the human elements to the spiritual and spirituality elements. My gift is also calling out the truth for what it is. Have we stopped invalidating our human species? Amazing, amazing, and I'm an intelligent, sentient being. Even though I know all my spiritual stuff, I'm putting it over here. I'm Maria, nice to meet you. Yes, I have clairs and all that great stuff. Quantum physicists are looking into it, but what I really want to shine a light on, relight my fire, is that I'm, simply put, an integrated brain in a restorative embodiment itself. And I can tell you all about my 3-year-old, she's right here. She's in the lead. She's the leader of the pack. Everything else comes later, because that's how fun it is to do life when your child isn't dead. You can't shame a child that never died. My teacher, Sue Martin, showed me. She said, what does it take for a 3-year-old for the life to be sucked out of? No, I'm not doing it. Okay, so anyways, enlightenment, not the trap. But the ones who do think it's a trap, they tend to be the ones who validate each other's charges, and they validate their stories and all that good stuff. And so, as I was saying, so all of my spiritual awakening experiences don't overwhelm me to the point of losing myself. 3 twin flames. Thank you, God, for keeping me away from the 2 that I would have ripped a new one to. The 3rd one is so humorous because when they showed up armored in, I was like, wow, I know who you are. I know what you're made of. You're the sweetest human being alive, and now you're really, really the entire heard, you all need that they don't believe in good mindful therapists. No, they believe in the soul being sold to devils. They believe in calling names, people names. I would say drama kings, queens, and the ones who live in the era of Snow White, Cinderella, and the stepsisters, all that stuff. But you could also say it's like comedians when they call polyamory whores. We're not whores, thank you very much, but I get it. You don't know how to make jokes without, I mean, I'm not offended personally, but that's because I'm emotionally mature, and that's because I'm not sensitive in the absence of knowing. Of course, I want to be seen, soothed, safe, secure. Someone calling me a whore, it's a word. That doesn't offend me because also I learned about its evolution through time in my language and gender class. And also I just know that we really could disengage from insulting people. Is it insult? Well, if a person's sensitive, it'll insult them. If a person realizes that the only people who use these words are reactive, which means they don't know what they're saying, it's very easy. It's okay. So when it hits the most, it means it's your time to shine the light on, I'm not being rejected. I can reflect upon this right now. I'm sad because I didn't connect. Humiliation. I have pride, but I also have self-respect and respect of other, and understand I'm in the presence of a person who doesn't know how to self-regulate. So I will be honest with myself and know that I cannot expect this regulated human being to be here with me. Like Stephen Porges points out, they don't know what they're doing, biologically rude people. And Jesus, I did promise him I would forgive. So, and Dr. Daniel Siegel, he explains so well that forgiveness is processing charge. The ones who are just hearing me, the ones who are seeing me, are seeing how I'm liking to move around a little bit. So, let me think. Wait, humiliation, honesty, rejection, reflection, injustice, integration. That's right. Yeah, of course I feel unjustly treated. I know I want the injustices of the world to they will be taken care of because we're emotionally intelligent and sentient beings. So we're moving into the future as we always have. What else was there? Abandonment. Yeah, no, I'm aligned with my ventral vagal state, so I'm not falling in a pit. And even when I have, I was falling for quite some time. Channeled guidance messages, food for thought. My lovely regulars know about it. I remember I was like, when am I going to get to the bottom? And I got to the bottom. And now I'm like, okay, now I get to walk back out. And I walked back out. And this was hilarious. Yes, it was. Okay, so what else? Let's see. Humiliation, rejection, abandonment. The famous betrayal. Yeah, the betrayal, only those who are cowards betray. But really, then I realized we all can be considered betrayers because some people have expectations. And I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention, I don't have the capacity to meet you at these times or to do this stuff either because I have a really busy 24 hours. I didn't realize how many people wouldn't have things to do during their day that they would be passionate about. So let me think what I'm missing one. Rejection, injustice, humiliation, abandonment, and I think injustice, humiliation, abandonment, rejection. I'm forgetting one. Which one is it? Anyways, so as I continue trying to, I can't. See, now my brain's like, I can't let it go. I need to close the loop. Betrayal, rejection, injustice, humiliation, abandonment. There we go. Those are all 5. I think betrayal, belonging. That's what I kept forgetting. So yes, when someone betrays us, we remind ourselves that we belong to the human species. And some people don't know how to walk a walk and talk a talk because they didn't get the 1/3 attunement, repair and rupture, and then they didn't notice themselves and go and say, wow, is my pattern of suffering something that maybe I can work with someone on? Today, luckily, we can know how it works. So for a number of years, I perceived my light body expansion. And later on from these experiences, I even moved into the rainbow body light. And that was even more fascinating. When I felt I needed even more, I got to get help with that one. So later on from these experiences, I found out that our energy body expands. I have a course on that. I need to finish watching it. And so that was common sense. I was like, okay, so spiritual awakening and ascension, they're a process. Then I found out about restorative embodiment. I was like, okay, so all our trauma charges, they get released from bones, muscles, tissues. Wait for it. I also came across a lovely doctor that explained Kundalini awakening. So we hold more consciousness and light because you're able to self-regulate in your ventral vagal state. When trauma charges or whatever comes up, because we always all have the child parts, then we're able to process it, like even the panic attacks. Okay, so as long as your resilience is headed towards the good place, then you're spiritually awakening, ascending, and you're enlightening. On the other hand, if you validate any of those charges, well, that's something that I'm not going to talk about, but our 3D, 4D brothers and sisters are doing a great job with that. So this professional who explained what Kundalini awakening is, I had two, he says it's a slow process. If it's psychoses, then it's not. And that's why when you meet someone I have, and as a mentor, they ask me for an Akashic record reading, Reiki, and tarot, but they explained to me that they became a threat to themselves, their ex-wife now, and their children. I said, we need to do the adult attachment interview, and also I have a list of mindful therapists that I will most definitely say we're going to go to them first, then they tell you if you can work with me, because I do personal growth and spiritual growth, and mindfulness has risks for non-bilaterally, meaning people who don't have a bilateral, vertical, overall integrated brain. And when people don't like what I tell them, I say nothing, because they usually just disappear and they don't come back. And that's because they find a shaman who says, come to me, I'll save you 20 years of therapy, or 10. And it's like, no, you won't. As like Patrick Tan points out, you don't heal your childhood anything because you don't reparent yourself by going to Boca Raton. And he's right. So when people tell you enlightenment is a trap, it's not a trap. They have validated their emotional charges, their affective realism, their dysregulated states, and their beliefs, versus go and notice themselves and hear what just came out of their mouth, which is saying that a human being cannot be enlightened or achieve a frequency of enlightenment. Well, maybe you can't, but if you had the neuroscientist explain to you the flow state, you'd know we are capable of being in a flow state. And this is where Maria is liking to share with you all. I didn't know all these fancy words, aren't they amazing? I like to break it down like I'm a 5-year-old, because that's really what I consistently state in, and also it's just fun. This is how I entertain you, because I don't want to do all those slides and those explanations. Oh, go to Substack if you have questions about words I'm using that I will not know, you don't know unless you tell me. So humanly speaking, I said, from body, brain, mind, self, what I know enlightenment is the restorative embodiment, and you grow in good resilience. And so with the trauma charges having slowly unraveled, as Peter Levine has pointed out, bones, muscles, and tissues, I thought of the Kundalini awakening doctor, or the Kundalini thing doctor, and I was like, okay, they both go hand in hand. And so you see, that's my gift, the human elements to spiritual and spirituality elements. Then when I think of 3D, 4D continuing to give our human makeup powers to sentient beings outside of human beings, I say, look, I come from the future. I get it. The commanders are right here. They just popped up again. I know they want me to share with you something. So do they. Yes, the Atlanteans too, but they can wait. As I'm trying to shed a light on that which is spiritual bypassing community forgot their place. And they don't seem to understand that their human makeup is that which is the embodied brain. Also, FYI, the explanation for shame. It is something that continues to find stories outside of itself in order to not look at itself, and they don't have to go to the mirror, because dysregulated, modulated first need someone who will help them. We are self-regulated only when we are in an optimal state of arousal. When someone teaches them how to autonomously self-regulate, they will have taken all those trauma charges, implicit, explicit, and they will have taken themselves, and now we get to meet them. And that is why transformational experiences, the number one is mindful therapy done, where you will come and say hello to us, and we will say hello to you, and we will hug, and we will know how to forgive and actually not repeat those core wounds around, because we understand, I've never walked one day in your shoes. No two nervous systems are alike. Stop calling our brothers and sisters demons. There's no demon in the sky. God's perfect, not humans. And the one thing all the spiritual bypassers forget, we're not it, and it is perfect. So that's an inconsistency when you want to give me an evil somewhere with science proving, by the way, there's no evil inside of anyone, and that everyone was a child like I was, and you. Okay, so we'll continue this very beautiful conversation, but what I can tell you about the Enlightenment Soul Age group and enlightenment is not a trap. Validation is a trap, but those people who hang around each other sure as fuck enjoy their stories. So let's Leave alone Peter Pan, Wendy, and the Lost Boys as they continue to fake it, and as we continue to try and respect that emotional maturity is a choice. Enlightenment, everyone has it. Ignorance is something we consistently have, but today we have enough information to know how we all are made and how we can all be at ease. Please, dark matter, dark energy, don't implode. So, every step of the way for my spiritual awakening, I find myself using what is called the flow state by neuroscientists, an integrated brain and a steady self-image discussed by our lovely known attachment trauma experts, and I have grown the capacity to tell you more about myself versus less. And one thing I'll share from that other question, but we'll look at these questions again at another moment in time. One of the worst parts of my awakening was the illusion that all spiritual people would be authentic, truthful, loving, and grow wise. The other was the panic attacks, but that's the least of my concerns. What helped me make sense of spiritual bypassers are the attachment trauma experts, neuroscientists, and neurobiologists. And with that understanding of what I'm dealing with whenever I find any of them, I just know that when you're awakening, you will grow more spiritually loving. You don't cut cords, you don't isolate, you don't think of ego, death, dark night of soul. You continue to be supportive, compassionate, and know that our human species continues, because that's our priority, to evolve. And we are evolving. And as for the lovely channel guidance food for thought from those lovely galactic beings over there, it'll be for another time, not today. In the meantime, though, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, again, drop it in Substack. Have a good one.